Hello and welcome to From the BLN, the Burnley podcast. I'm Justin Connolly and it's my first job tonight to apologise to you all for coming at you a day late this week. Various logistic issues have scuppered our usual plans on Thursday night, so we're sorry about that and we promise it will never, ever, ever happen again. Probably. Anyway, we're still operating with a depleted squad. Andrew Greaves is unable to sit down, so can't make it to the microphone after his magnificent efforts pedalling from Brussels to Burnley on the Tour de Vinny. Chris Bowden is on his way back from a day out with his kids in Alton Towers, which strikes me as one of the best reasons to be missing that I can possibly think of. Simon Evans is taking time out to join us. He's supposed to be watching some very fast cars drive around in circles in hot pursuit of each other. But he's put his earphones on and managed to make it.
Yeah, they've stopped going around in circles now for a bit, so I can have a chat before they start going around in circles again.
Nice little break in the televised traffic. And Paul Woodhouse is also with us. Well capable of a low block and some long balls. So we might have to go a bit route one this week, but we'll do our best. Before we get into the real matter at hand, which is obviously Newcastle United's visit to Turf Moor this afternoon, there's a few little things to tie up, a few little news items floating around the Clarets that we should discuss. The first one. Football Insider has reported this week that Liverpool, of all people, are interested in signing James Trafford, of all people. Apparently, scouts from Anfield have been watching James Trafford's performances and have been impressed by his progress, which begs two questions, I think, Woody. Firstly, has James Trafford been playing games that we don't know about? And secondly, this can't be true, can it?
You've loaded that question, haven't you? I think it's slightly unfair to say he hasn't progressed, but I think I don't think Liverpool are necessarily looking at him as a number one or a number two, are they? They're probably looking at him as a third choice. And I can imagine, if you're thinking long term, he can float about, etc. I can imagine he's probably a good option. I mean, they probably know better than us as to what that deal entails and what they can get him for, etc. And he may be, an exceptional talent in a few years. But it's concrete interest, isn't it? I don't know where that lands on the spectrum of interest in terms of transfers, but I'm going to say it's relatively high.
Where's the concrete? In his boots. Simon. Well, I mean, does it make sense to cash in on him if it's possible? We've got, obviously, Muric has won that battle of the number ones this season, and he's only 25, so he's still got room to develop. I think Woody's right in suggesting that Liverpool are looking at him as a long-term option rather than getting straight into the side. And when we signed him, it was all about his potential, wasn't it? I don't think we expected him to play as many games. Does it make sense to you?
I mean, they'd be looking at a number two. I think they'd be looking probably to replace Kelleher with him, wouldn't they? As have him as the main backup to the Brazilian keeper.
Alisson.
Alisson, yeah. But are they really? I mean, this is it is a pretty strange one coming out this like a few weeks after he gets dropped by Burnley. He's linked with Liverpool. How much is really in this story? You know, he's being scouted. I'm always a bit skeptical of stories that cite the fact that people are being scouted, because basically these days everybody is scouting everyone. So I would imagine Liverpool have had their eye on him. You know, highly rated young England under-21 goalkeeper. He hasn't done that badly. If you go and look at it from that point of view of maybe of a scout going to watch them, the scout doesn't care whether Burnley's back four, how they're performing, or how the midfield, whether the transition of passes is going fast enough or anything. The scout's going to look about his individual skill set, isn't he, primarily, and think, well, the rest of it will be completely different because he'll be playing with Liverpool players. He'll be rolling it out to Alexander-Arnold or Robertson rather than Charlie Taylor or Connor Roberts. So you could see that there might possibly. Should we sell him? If that's all true, should they sell him? I mean, it's going to be tempting to get their money back on him, hasn't it? I mean, if they make a profit, then you'd have to say that would probably make the decision a bit easier. But if they could get the money back on what to most people a few months ago you would have said was an expensive error that had been made last summer, without that sounding very harsh on him, but a lot of people would have said that if you can get your money back on him, it'll be tempting.
Yeah, well, that's the model, isn't it? Sort of at least getting your money back and making a bit of a profit. But I mean, there'd be no question of it happening if we didn't have Muric, would there? I mean, you've got to imagine that he's going to start next season as the number one, having finished this season as the number one. Although we said that at the start of last season, so anything's possible, isn't it? And also, you don't know about clauses in contracts and all that sort of thing. Maybe James Trafford doesn't want to drop down into the Championship. I think it'd be good for him, a good season in the Championship. I think that'd be the making of him if that's what happens. Obviously, that's not tied on, but I think it's one. I think you're right. I think it smacks a little bit of the kind of thing that someone's agent might have dropped to somebody to fire up a bit of interest in him. And it's a taste of what's to come, isn't it? Once the season's over, this sort of daft transfer speculation is just gonna.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's another one here. Sky Germany reporting that Jordan Bayer can apparently leave if we go down for around 15 million euros, which is I think around about what we paid for him. Woody, what do you think? Would that be a disaster?
Not a disaster, but it's disappointing because I think everybody quite likes Bayer, don't they? And we know if he went down, he'd be a sterling option at centre-half because he's already done it there. It always surprises me when somebody says he's only 23. He always seems a little bit older. He always seems like more 27, 28 to me. He always seems a little bit older. But you can see how he would complement quite a lot of sides in the Premier League. Or anywhere else for that matter. So it'd be sad to lose him, but I think we've done a good job this year of if anything, fortifying and improving other players in the centre back spot. So even though I'd like to keep him, I think if it's somebody that we can cash in on, then it might not be the worst. It might not be the worst thing that could happen.
I sort of think 15 million for him, how much euros, isn't it? Which is not quite, about 13 million pounds.
Yeah.
19 million for James Trafford, at least. We've got to be asking that. That's kind of fills a little bit of that hole we worry might appear if we do go down. Yeah. But I mean, from my point of view, it strikes me as a little bit like the Championship season, really. We started that season with Bayer and Howard-Bellis. Lost them both, and then slipped in Al-Dakhil and Ekdal, who were still there and did a fantastic job for us that season. But they're not even starting for us now. We've got two other central defenders who, in O'Shea and Esteve, who've been magnificent, haven't they? They've been a real cornerstone of this revival in form. So, I mean, Simon, you got to hand it to the recruitment team here, haven't you? They really do seem to have a knack for unearthing these quality central defenders. I wish they could identify left backs as well as they can central defenders, because they seem to have a bit of a conveyor belt going on, don't they?
Yeah, it does seem to be their sweet spot, centre halves. You're right, and it's one that you do wonder though. I mean, if these two deals, let's say, I mean, this is like a massive asterisk question mark, but if the Trafford and Bayer deals were to happen, as have been reported, then we're just getting the money back onto players that were signed in the previous year, not actually making profits. So is the model working? The model isn't working, is it? They're sort of cutting their losses in that sense. Who knows? The interesting one about the Bayer thing is it suggests that the relegation clauses are in there with the new signings. Yeah, because so how many potential Wout Weghorst situations could be coming up this summer, where players turn around and say, "Sorry, it's in my contract. I don't have to play at Portsmouth away. I'm entitled to go for this amount of money." There could be quite a few. I mean, the amount of players that have come in and out. I mean, how many other players are going to be in that position? And the damaging thing about the Weghorst one is, I think that wouldn't be a problem if we'd have sold Weghorst for 10 million and got our money back on him, like it's been suggested with these two deals. The problem with Weghorst is no one was willing to pay it, so we've been loaning him around for 2 years. We don't want to be in that position where the money that was spent on Mike Trezor results in Mike Trezor playing in the Turkish league and various other places while still under contract to Burnley. That would be a huge waste of money.
And there are a lot of others who signed last summer as well, who worry might have got that clause in their contracts as well. So moving on to the next little snippet that I picked up on this week. Woody, you shared this one with us. A report on a website called Zox, right? I don't know how reliable a source they are.
Exactly.
About Burnley entering into another partnership, this time with a Romanian company called Nordensa. I mean, it's weird how we always find out about these things off these random websites. Now, unfortunately, I was unable to read all this story because the minute I clicked on the link you shared, the whole thing was covered with adverts. And my eyesight doesn't really permit me to locate these sort of little X's they put in the top corner.
Fox News appears to be down at the moment.
Yeah, but it was a report of a solid sort of partnership that had signed, sealed, and delivered, wasn't it? It seems to me like they're asking for people to pay some of the players' salary. As ludicrous as that sounds, maybe you could shed a bit more light on it. Maybe you managed to get to the end of the report, because I didn't.
It seems to be similarly to, we've got the AI scouting platform that ALK brought in. It seems to be a theme around that. So again, it's another scouting platform, but in this instance, it's a fan-backed scouting platform. So it looks like fans can have a look at these trainees and young players, etc. And also, there's an element of a Kickstarter where you can fund, I think, up to, the report said, 5 to 6% of their wages, etc. So it's a bit like Ashley Hoskins's Bucket / Frank Teasdale's Kitty, but in the digital age, which on the face of it sounds partially ridiculous, but quite interesting as well. But all the sites that I'm finding currently are either various things from Ghana or that weird Romanian site, etc. So there doesn't seem to be an official comment on it or press release on it, etc. But it seems to be getting quite a lot of traction.
I think some things have come out. I think some things have come out since then. I mean, I'm just looking at Inside World Football, which is like a decent website of sort of football business, and they've got quotes from Alan Pace there. So let me just read some of that. Alan Page said, I'm pleased to announce our collaboration with Nordense as we continue to find innovative ways to discover exciting player talent. As a club, we're passionate about developing young talent, and the unique way Nordense is connecting fans and players is very exciting. I'm looking forward to collaborating with Nordense and seeing further fan-backed footballers make their mark on the game. And then Adrian Dossier, the CEO of Nordense, says, to have the club sharing in our vision to give over 5 billion passionate fans a real shot at meaningful involvement in football is not something that we take for granted. So 5 billion.
We've got 5 billion fans. Maybe they need to spend some of this cash on expanding the Turf Moor capacity then.
Yeah, maybe another tier.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the time it strikes me that a lot of these modern internet types seem to reinvent the wheel and then claim it's some sort of radical reinvention. This is just like player sponsorship, isn't it? You know, it's like the good old days when you could pay for Mick Conroy's boots or Glenn Little's training gear and have your name in the back of the programme.
Yeah.
It's more or less that, but done via Romania, isn't it? Which is very on brand for us at the moment.
It does sound like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose you're getting in on these players before they've hit the big time, I suppose, before they've signed for a Premier League club. And then what do you get in return? That's a big question, isn't it? Do you get a slice of the profits when they get sold on, or what? It's
got to be some behind-the-scenes content. There's got to be. There always is.
There's always some behind-the-scenes content. Right, finally, in this bit, let's just move on to some good news. As promised, and as I've been somewhat cynical about recently, the club has announced on Friday, yesterday, that safe standing has been brought to the cricket field stand for the first time for this game. I mean, this is our idea, isn't it, Woody?
I must admit, I mean, yes and no, but they did seem to rush it through after we went berserk about it that time for no apparent reason. So the pictures that I've seen feel like the AI generated in some which way, shape, or form. It just seems like there's a load of seats with just like standing rails.
Yeah, just
not to fall over. It's
they've just installed some bars, haven't they?
That's what they all like, though. I mean, it's a weird thing. It's safe standing. Because you sort of think when they first talked about it, they're bringing back the terraces. But of course, it's nothing like it, really. What you're doing is putting a rail in front of seats so that if someone stands up, they can't fall into the row in front of them. It's a very, I don't know.
It is, but what it does mean is that you can't really sit down because the grounds that I've been to where they've had safe standing, they had it at Stamford Bridge in the away end, and they have it at Old Trafford. The seats are more. I think it's more or less a token that the seats are there because there's not actually really enough room for you to sit down.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not sure this is what we're going to get because obviously we're retrofitting it to a 50-year-old stand or however old the cricket field stand is. But certainly at Old Trafford, I'm not a massive guy, but I would find it difficult to be comfortable and sit down. And because safe standing does tend to encourage people to stand up, so wherever you are in whatever football game, and if the guy's standing in front of you standing up, you've got to stand up, haven't you? So it just ends up that everybody stands up anyway. It's a bit like it feels a bit like the old sort of terracing, and because there's a seat there with your number on it and the ticket you've got your own little space, so you're there. But I don't know. But what do we think? Do we think this is going to? I mean, I think it's the right place for it. I think we identified the cricket field stand as being a good spot for it. But and we have sort of said, haven't we, that you do need a focal point for that atmosphere. But what do you think, Sam? Do you think it's going to bring a bit more atmosphere?
It might do, yeah. It might end up also being like a pocket, like that cricket field stand sort of is a pocket of atmosphere, isn't it? Really, but I mean, it'd be great if the whole stand was standing, wouldn't it? Then we'd be talking about having something, akin to a Cop or the Yellow Wall at Dortmund or whatever. But we're not. We're talking about a little corner of the cricket field stand where you can stand up, which is good. I'm not criticising it at all. I think it's a good step forward. Hopefully it goes well. They see the proof of concept can be delivered, and then they expand it. But personally, I think they're a bit over the top, to be honest. But I'm going to get into trouble. I quite like going out into the Stanley behind the goal, and you've just got a few railings around that do the job, to lean on while you're rooting about for your sarsaparilla in your pocket. But also it stops you tumbling down or anything like that. It never gets that packed to worry too much about that. But it's perfectly safe. It's perfect, and I've been in there when it's been really busy, and it's perfectly safe. So I think there are eventually going to be ways of having like normal terraces that are also safe if they control the numbers, like you can do electronically much better than you ever could back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But for the meantime, we're stuck with this sort of very sort of nanny state-ish safe standard, and that's what it is. So good. I welcome it. I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes, if it makes any difference.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a start, isn't it? I mean, you couldn't. I think Chris made the point, didn't he, that when everybody's standing up, if he's there with his boys, it's quite safe standing is not ideal for families because the kids can't really see you if everybody's standing up. It's a bit more of a level.
It's not for them.
So it's not for them, but they put this in a place and just sort of said, well, season ticket holders who are sat in these seats, you got to like it or lump it. I can't think of another way to do it though. Just introduce it and then maybe you're going to upset some people, but maybe offer those people a transfer at another part of the ground next season or something like that. But again, you've got to hand it to them. They said they were going to do it, and they've done it in response to a questionnaire that they put out to fans. How can we improve the atmosphere at Turf Moor?
Yeah,
safe standing is something that we've asked for, and they've done it, and they've delivered on the timescale they said before the end of the season. There's 2 games left, so we'll
exactly.
It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. I think it's a real positive move. I'm trying to think, walking around the ground at the last home game, how you could accommodate away fans anywhere else without it being difficult logistically. So we could turn that entire stand over to home fans, which I think would make a massive difference. I can't really, apart from sort of the lower tier of the James. Is it the James Hargreaves? Still the James Hargreaves stand, the north stand, the long side stand, if you will. Yeah. The lower tier towards the cricket field, then you could maybe have people coming in via that little snicket down the side of the cricket ground. But I think it'd be very difficult to manage that. Where they are now seems to be the entrance to that sort of away end seems to be probably the only place they could do it. So I think that requires some thought, but certainly a step in the right direction, I think.
We could go down the Newcastle route and build a sort of 50-foot skyscraper and put the away fans in the top of that.
Don't give them ideas. Yeah.
Next time they send a little survey out, Simon, you've got. Right. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. Let's get on to the real issue. And Newcastle United coming to Turf Moor this afternoon. This is about as must-win as a must-win game gets, isn't it? I mean, I know nothing can really be decided this weekend, but a win today will certainly help. We're recording this as Luton are taking on Everton, and anything other than a Luton win actually puts things back in our hands, which, Woody, I mean, it's incredible, really, that we're still in it. I mean, on this podcast, we've written off our chances so many times, but yeah, and you've got to give credit to them, haven't you? That he said it all along. Vincent Kompany said, "We'll come good," and prior to this game, he's on the right lines, isn't he?
Exactly. And I think the other thing as well, now you're seeing him in his pre-match press conferences, there's a bit more ebullience there. There's a smile back on folks' faces. They believe, I think, they can, that they're there to do something. Now, it's still Newcastle, and personally, I don't necessarily fancy us against them, but, the performances are there, and we know what we have to do. And like you say, it's as must-win as a must-win game is going to be. We don't want to suddenly start looking around and hope for other particular results to go our way. So let's see what we can do.
I mean, I will say I was at the last game that Newcastle played at Turf Moor almost exactly 2 years ago. Well, we had to win that game to stay in the Premier League, and it was a very, very tired performance by a team that had gone through the mill that season. In fact, at that time, the whole club seemed quite tired and ready for renewal. Simon, it doesn't really feel like that now, does it? It doesn't feel like we're tired. It feels like we've got a bit of momentum behind us. It feels like we're on the up rather than struggling like we were then.
Yeah, I mean, if memory doesn't trick me, I think went into that game after Villa away, wasn't it, during the week, where we'd had a bit of a setback and games coming back to back at the end of the season. And you're right, that setback at Villa did seem to sort of leave the team sort of staring at the abyss a bit and a bit tired. Whereas this time we go into this game with momentum. On the back of a fully deserved draw at Manchester United, which could have been even better, and with one defeat in the last 8 games. So the team's going into this. I think they're expecting to win this. I think they believe they can do this. And whereas exactly what you're talking about that period, then I don't think they believed that much anymore. And they had an interim manager there that Sean had gone. It was a very different situation. They believe things have come together. It's still a tough game, though. I mean, as much as we can rightly be optimistic on the back of what's been achieved over the last 6 weeks or so, you're still talking about a team which is 7th in the Premier League with 53 points, above Chelsea, above West Ham,
Yeah.
So, it's a tough one, but this is it. If it's going to happen, it's got to happen, I think, really, because, that Tottenham away can't really be thinking we're going to get much out of that one. It's got to go and grab the 3 points here. 2 draws on, we've got to go and do it, and I think it's entirely doable.
Yeah, I think so too, Woody. I mean, you've got to hand it to Eddie Howe up there. He's done a good job, hasn't he? It's to survive. Yeah. I mean, normally when you get a massive takeover, probably the richest club in the country now, even surpassing what the Resources City have got. Normally, the manager's the first casualty, aren't he? But and him and Vinny have been very complimentary about each other.
Yeah.
So they are a good side, but we are turning into a good side too, aren't we?
Yeah, and there's a little interesting stat that they've got the 3rd worst away record this season. There's only Brentford and Sheffield United who have lost more than their 8. So they haven't been travelling well. So that bodes relatively well. I mean, they'll probably travel infinitely better coming to our place, but I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's been a constant all season, because they have had 1 or 2 little ups and downs and one particular blip, haven't they, this particular season? So they've not had as good a season as they had last season, but I think that's to be expected. Yeah.
But they've still got some real quality in that side, haven't they? But then again, so have we. It's another one of those, isn't it? We don't know what's going to happen. That's why we play the games. But I think, although it's not going to be decided this afternoon, as we said, it does feel like if we do lose this, and just the number of points available are starting to run out, aren't they? And it's starting to feel a little bit more difficult, especially when you consider that, Forest are going to Sheffield United this afternoon. So, I mean, Simon, what do you think? That's something that could go either way, isn't it? It could be Sheffield United have just given up, consigned themselves to relegation, and it might be a walkover. But sometimes when relegation's confirmed for a team,
sometimes, but not with Sheffield United.
Well, they've not shown it yet. They've not shown any signs that they might do that yet. But
they've just not been there all year at all. Really, I was talking to a Sheffield United fan during the week, and she was saying that everyone's just so happy that they're back in the Championship in this absolute nightmare, horrible season that they knew was going to be terrible from the word go. When they started selling players before the season began, they knew they weren't going to be good enough. They haven't been good enough. They've gone down. They're utterly demoralised, and they're looking forward to starting again. So I'd be really surprised if they suddenly lifted themselves to beat Forest. And Forest should have too much for them. They should. I mean, I know there's a small place difference in the league, but from what we've seen of them both this season, there's quite a gulf between them, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, they should beat them. They should beat them. But even if they do, if we manage to pick up 3 points tomorrow, we'll still be within that magical 2 points of Forest, and that's the game now, isn't it? It's all about remaining within 2 points of Forest over the next couple of games, and then giving ourselves a chance in that last game. Interesting to me that it looks like there's every chance we might catch Luton, and Luton are a team we've been applauding all season for having a real good go, and that they were making a much better fist of it than we were. Well, it looks like there's a decent chance that we might be able to turn that around. Anyway, I think we can leave it there for today, can't we? There's a couple of things I'd like to talk about before we finish. Firstly, the shop, our online shop, is going to undergo some changes over the next week or so, if I can get my act together. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? So if you've got your eye on anything that's in the shop at the moment, I would strongly suggest that you push the button on it within the next I'm going to say a few days, but it might be a week before I can get it sorted.
Could be a fortnight.
Could be a month. But changes are
the season's ending anyway.
Yeah, sod it.
Changes are afoot anyway, so we'll see what we'll see what comes of that. Anyway, so come tonight, the table could look very different to how it looks this morning, and it'll look a lot better. I'm going to be heading off to Turf Moor this afternoon with high hopes, and I only hope we can give it a real go. If we're going to go down, we want to go down fighting, and I know there'll be plenty of fight in the stands this afternoon. So let's meet back here tomorrow night with 3 points and that hope still burning bright. Until then, I'll see you next time, and up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson.